Thank you so much. And thank you to the School2Home team for inviting me on day one of your Leadership Academy. It's nighttime here in the East Coast, but I know it's also evening time over there on the West Coast too. So I really appreciate your dedication to stay engaged with other leaders that's on today. Again, my name is Jisoo Song. I serve as the broadband advisor at the Office of Educational Technology, U.S. Department of Education. And my role is to really collaborate with agencies across the federal government to help maximize the impact of programs and policies geared towards broadband and digital equity. And we actually have a small convening tomorrow to discuss with stakeholders around how we can better make sure things like the emergency broadband benefit is reaching folks who need it the most. And externally, I'm working with folks like the CETF School2Home team to regularly listen in on the needs of the field and take note of the progress being made towards digital equity. And then, as you mentioned, before I was at the U.S. Department of Ed, I was at ISTE serving as the senior policy advisor. I had a chance to lead our partnership with SCOE to develop the California State Digital Learning Guidance. I think Richard talked about it a little bit. And I know CTF was a huge supporter of that guidance, so thank you for that. It was really great hearing directly from school leaders throughout tonight on ongoing efforts to accelerate learning coming out after the pandemic. It was also great to hear from my previous boss, Richard Collada, on the opportunities to innovate and emerge stronger coming out of the pandemic, and really resonated with his point about ensuring that there's a shared guiding vision in place even before the technology investments come into play. And I think this will be really important as states, districts, and schools continue to spend dollars from the American Rescue Plan and now the infrastructure bill that the president signed into law yesterday. I also had a chance to listen in on the SEL breakout group. And I think a key takeaway from that group was really the importance of cultivating an inclusive and engaging school community as students transition back to their brick and mortar classrooms. And I really couldn't agree more. And I love how technology can really be a tool to accelerate those kinds of practices. I think reflecting on the last 2 years, I think the silver lining to COVID-19 as far as education is concerned is that the disruption really let us deeply examine our systems with fresh eyes and ask ourselves three very simple questions. What haven't we been doing that we should start doing? What have we been doing that we should stop doing? And what have we done really well in the last 2 years and should continue to do following the pandemic? And I think one of those areas that we not only need to continue investing in, but really double down on is that topic of digital equity as a foundation for accelerating learning. In the U.S. Department of Education's COVID-19 guidance, our handbook volume 2, our office noted that English learners, students of color, rural and low-income students not only have less access to internet and devices compared to their peers, but as Richard emphasized during his remarks, they have less access to high-quality technology-enabled learning experiences. And research shows time and time again that this gap translates to a range of outcomes like lower digital literacy, lower homework completion rates, lower GPA, lower college completion. So it follows them throughout their lifetime. So I really applaud all your efforts around digital equity to make sure that technology can be regularly and effectively leveraged as a tool to accelerate learning. While I have a little bit of time I want to share a few federal resources that might be helpful to your ongoing efforts. I'm sure you all are experts of the Emergency Broadband Benefit Program by now, but a brief overview for those who don't know, it's a temporary program from the FCC that offers a $50 internet subscription discount for eligible households. And OET has developed an outreach toolkit to help you share this opportunity with your school communities. So it'd be great. It's been great to see this program even expanded in the infrastructure bill that the president signed into law yesterday. So I put that toolkit in the chat in case you want to refer to it. The second resource I wanted to share was our home access playbook, which I'll put in the chat also. It's a recent publication that gives guidance around 7 different strategies for providing home internet access with recommendations and examples from states and districts. Very briefly, the 7 recommendations are coalitions. How can education leaders like yourselves be a driver at state level conversations around broadband access and economic sustainability? Data, I think there's a lot of scattered data analysis out there. How to collect better data that doesn't treat connectivity as a binary problem between being connected and disconnected and allows for more nuanced analysis. partnerships. I think there's a lot of nonprofits and for-profit organizations out there that have been offering their expertise and resources. So how can education leaders like yourselves work towards a shared vision with these folks? A menu of choices, different local contexts obviously require different solutions. What are some options that districts and schools may consider? Bulk purchasing, how can education leaders take advantage of things like economies of scale and procure materials through a shared central system? Last two, families. Families have obviously increased their role in education over the last 2 years. How can we better support them in using the new technology tools from home and build their digital literacy competencies? And finally, teacher capacity, something I talked about all the time with Richard when I was at ISTE. Digital equity really can't end and begin with the internet access. How do we best support the teachers that are behind the technology? So feel free to take a look at that resource. I actually encourage you to blog about how you're strategizing around some of those recommendations. And it's something that OET could help elevate through our social channels and things like that. So let me know. And the last resource that I wanted to let you know about was our guidance and strategies for addressing lost instructional time. The Department of Education released a new resource suggesting strategies for using funds from the American Rescue Plan to accelerate learning. Again, we know digital equity can't begin and end with access to devices and connectivity. So there's a lot of suggestions in there around using federal dollars to narrow the digital use divide, from innovative assessments to leveraging national digital learning standards to guide procurement and professional development decisions. So feel free to take a look at these three resources: the Emergency Broadband Benefit Outreach Toolkit, the Home Access Playbook, and the Accelerating Learning Guidance. And let me know if you have any questions. I'll put my email in the chat just as Richard did, in case you have any questions or any comments, concerns. I'm actually especially interested in how different communities, your school communities, are strategizing to promote the adoption of, internet connectivity and broadband and technology in our unserved and underserved communities. How are we making sure that technology actually gets to the students' hands once the availability and affordability solutions are there? So.